And because they like me, right? Then I can proceed with the second part. So I'm on his side, trying to help him. And then what happens the next day? I say, hey, are you better? We're trying really hard to get you better. How do you feel? And the guy is not having more ease of breathing or whatever because he has worsened cancer. I can't treat his cancer, right? And it's like, we're trying really hard. Do you think it could be something else? Because they can't believe that it's cancer causing him to have so much trouble breathing, so many difficulties in life. But I'm there explaining stuff to them, right? And finally, the third day comes around. It's like, maybe there's something else. Maybe this cancer really isn't doing well, right? And unfortunately, there's not much we could do for it. I know you've been seeing your cancer doctor, been getting chemotherapy, but it seems like it's getting worse. I'm the explainer. I'm explaining inconsistencies, difficulties, right? I'm the one who has the answers. And he looked at me, right? See, having the role of an explainer, right, seems self-explanatory. The doctor's obviously the one who's supposed to know this stuff, right? That's why you're there. That's why you have a doctor, right? The nurses may do stuff. They may have practical experience. The doctor has the book knowledge. He's the one who understands how things are going on. He could tell you prognosis, what the future is going to hold for you. Tell you treatment options, right? He is the explainer. And I find that most importantly, you have to explain so they trust you. And so when you need them to do something, get this treatment or to get your blood work or this stuff, you can explain to them why they should do stuff, right? I mean, they're adults. They want to know why sometimes, right? Some patients are just very good. They just do what they're told, but some patients sort of want to know why. And if you can't tell them, if you don't do a good job, if you don't explain so they believe you and they will change your behavior accordingly, then the nurse is not going to tell them to do anything. And that means you will spend all your time and effort there with them or their family, problem solving, persuading, cajoling, blah, blah, blah. Right? Which makes your life very difficult. I'd say the second thing, right, in terms of explaining why it's so important, right, is because you needed to explain to other doctors why they need to do stuff. So again, this is just my experience. I heard of this magical world in other parts of the U.S. where consultants or doctors just do stuff because you ask them to. Because I worked in many healthcare systems, and I haven't seen this magical thing. I think I haven't seen it because I haven't worked in. I mean, worked in for-profit organizations, but I guess in super for-profit, productivity based. I don't know, where people want to make more money. So I work in these places where basically specialists may make more money doing a procedure, but they really don't care to make that extra money. Where specialists may make money seeing my patient, but they don't really care to make the extra money doing a consult. So I have to persuade them to see patients. And not just that, I have to persuade them many times to think. And that means I have to explain to them why. Of course, you don't talk about it that way. But basically, when you call somebody on a phone, right? Because, in a good old system, right, you could put in an order, but I don't think that good old system ever existed. And the new computer system, many times it has this caveat saying this order is just a placeholder, yet they still contact the specialist if you want them to see the patient. Something to that effect. So you have to contact them. And here's the deal. I have to explain to Dr. say John why he has to come in from his very comfortable home or his vacation or whatever, wherever he is, to come in and see my patient. Right? Because this is not his patient right now. He is not a patient from John Doe, and you could sort of care less. The patient probably doesn't have a serious issue because, I'm a stupid hospitalist. I don't know anything anyways. I always exaggerate, overstate, right? Don't know how to interpret stuff. So I have to explain to him why he should, get in his car and drive over and skip dinner with his family or whatever, right? Not very fun. But that's explaining. I think that's the thing about my job as a doctor, right? Explaining is so important, right? Even though I say convincing people, all this stuff, it has to do with so much the emotional argument of the relationship, right? The whole thing about anecdotes meaning more than, data. But at the end of the day, at least dealing with a lot of stuff in my field, you really have to know your stuff, or at least have a great explanation for stuff. And if you are a better explainer, right, then life will be easier. And I guess I probably should close by what I should have said at the very beginning. That is, what exactly is explaining? I would say it's like contracts, which I don't even know what this means. I've only heard this because I sat into a lesson one time in a law school just for fun. But contracts is not something signed. Contract is a meeting of the mind. And here's the thing with explaining. Many professors explain, but I would say that's not really explaining. They think they're talking, teaching, whatever. Explaining means that you use words, terms, music, whatever you have, hand gestures, to get the other person to comprehend what you're trying to explain. It sounds like a self-referential explanation because I'm using explain again. But the idea is that many professors aren't good. They're intelligent. They're super smart. But they can't somehow bring themselves down to this other person level or speak in a way that this person understands them. And so that's the thing that many doctors miss, right? You gotta speak in a way that other people understand, and they miss it both ways. So the first thing is, when you talk to a specialist, you gotta know how to talk to them, because they don't speak in the same terms you do. The main thing I would say is a medical doctor speaking to a surgeon. They just have different priorities. They think differently. Their brains are built differently. Their bodies are built differently. I mean, medical doctors, we eat lunch, we go to the bathroom, whereas surgeons, they don't eat. They go 5 hours standing there without going to have to go to the bathroom, without having to take a break. We're just different creatures. We're from different planets, right, basically. After I started talking to my friend who's a surgeon, I know how to talk to surgeons better. It's much more effective, because now we communicate. We have a contract. The same way with patients. Many doctors use terms like, oh yeah, well, we diuresed him, right, for the heart failure, we think we want him to dry. They're like dry. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. So as a patient, dry means like a desert. Dry means the towel has not been used yet, or I hung it out to dry. Like, what do you mean dry out a patient? You put them through the ringer? Like wet? They're wet? Like he's dripping in sweat. I mean, but he doesn't seem like he sweats. What does dry mean? It's a common term that we use differently in the medical field. Diuresis. Diuresis. Is that like diarrhea? Right? I mean, it's funny when you think about it this way, but it's just ridiculous, right? Medical terminology. And then it's not just medical terminology, but the fact that they use medical paradigms, which patients, again, didn't go to medical school. How do they understand your medical paradigms? Use analogies, use stories. This is how you talk to people normally. Or, I mean, this is how I talk to people. This is what they teach in English class, right? How you write an essay. Explaining. Communication. Essential part of my job as a doctor. But we never got an explainer in medical school or residency about explaining. And that's why this whole issue is, right? Doctors are not good communicators, both directions. You gotta know who your audience is. Speak to them in a language they understand, in words that are intelligible. Don't use intelligible. So they get it. Get it?